Hello and welcome to episode number 111. I don't know why, but this feels like a milestone to me. And I'm about to share to you or with you what I learned in my journey so far of doing every day a single podcast live every single day since I started 111 days ago. A lot of things have changed, a lot. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, this week is the root canal awareness week. So I thought to myself, should I talk about root canals? Because I said yesterday I was going to talk about root canals versus implants, because questions, especially on TikTok, where they constantly ask these questions. But I decided that I want to talk about podcast number 111 and what it has done for me and what kind of lessons I can draw from it. Because obviously, in order for you to become successful, it doesn't happen in 111 days, right? I mean, unless you've already been doing it before and you can just pour gas on the fire, then you can grow and grow really fast. But if you haven't done it before, which I have not, then obviously it's going to be a long process. I don't know anybody that's been doing podcasts live every single day, but I'm pretty sure if you know them, if you know of them, or if you've heard of them, or if you've heard them from the beginning to 111 days, they probably sound a lot different. And if you were to compare, and that's the really cool thing about this journey, is that if you were to compare my first podcast or my first 10 podcasts or first 20 podcasts, compare them to my last 5 or my last 10, they are night and day different. The way that I speak is different. The way that I express myself is different. The way that I speak to the camera is different. And so I've compiled a few things that I've learned during the almost 4 months or 111 days that I've done podcasts that I want to share with you in hopes that I can inspire you to get started on something and to realize that, yes, it is a journey. So, did I feel like doing it? Do I feel like doing it every single day? Have I felt like doing it every single day for the past 111 days? Have I had to do some things in order for me to actually fit that into my schedule? Have I had to change my schedule? Have I had to mold my schedule around the 111 podcasts so far so I can actually deliver them? Yes, 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 and yes. I definitely had to mold a lot of things around my podcast because I am 100% committed. And I decided that if I'm going to be committed and I'm going to go to 300, then I cannot take it lightly. I have to take it seriously. So around 10% of the time, that's it. Around 10% of the time is when I actually felt like doing these podcasts. Literally, like if you were to measure all the days since I started, the day I started until today, 111 days, I'd say around 10%. So 11 of those days is when I actually felt like facing the camera, but you won't notice. And I'll tell you why you won't notice, because my energy level, I've trained my energy level to be at peak level every time I face the camera. Every time that I'm preparing myself, I'm at peak, meaning like I'm delivering at 100%. And so that's why you're not going to notice. And I also do it every single day after work, on the weekends, Fridays included, holidays included. It doesn't matter. It is done. It is going to get done. And that is a commitment. So here's some things that have changed, that I've noticed that have changed. Maybe you can name some things that you notice have changed. But here are some things that have changed in the past 111 days for me personally. The first one is I'm much better at storytelling. Like, I mean, night and day better at storytelling. And the reason is because in order for me to face the camera, a camera that's obviously cannot talk back, doesn't have any personality, all it is just it's a lens. It looks like someone just literally staring at you or you talking to a wall, but I know I'm not talking to a wall. And you're just talking to it and you're trying to make sense. So that is the number one thing, is that I've developed the ability to actually communicate a story more coherently and more interestingly. Like I can captivate your interest because I can gauge your interest. I can gauge when things are actually going to get boring, and I can tell how my pitch, my tone can actually change throughout the entire presentation, when I can speak really fast and when I have to pause it and slow down. And that all of that came through me practicing every single day and you seeing it. So that's number one. Number two, which is related to number one, is that I have the ability now, or I'm much better in my ability to speak on demand. Meaning, I can speak right now about literally anything and come up with many different topics for me to talk about without having to think too much about it. And the reason is because I've developed the ability to think quickly. And that's what I notice is that with me doing these podcasts, in a row, is that in order for me to actually come up with material so quickly, I have to think incredibly quickly. I mean, think about it. In order for you to prepare a presentation, usually it takes days, if not a week, right? And usually you procrastinate until the day before, and then you're stuck. You don't even know what to talk about. It's because that fear comes up, and you're like, I don't know what to say. Who am I to say it? You get that imposter syndrome. Like you have a lot of these things that are stopping you. But all these walls, or a lot of these walls, a lot of these challenges have actually been broken down to in front of me. Like they're not actually an obstacle to me because of the amount of times that I've had to go through, right? So that is number two. Number three is that I'm able to convey information much clearly, like much better. So forget about being able to tell a story. Forget about the ability to speak on spot and to come up with topics and to be able to speak for a long period of time coherently. I am able to give information. Like I'm able to relate information that is coherent. How many people do you know can actually speak coherently with information that they actually want to relate to people? This is like communication 101, which is a huge plus. Like if you want to be able to change anything in your life, the first thing is that you have to be able to communicate that properly. You have to be able to convey it properly to people. Well, with me doing 111 podcasts in a row, guess what? I've developed that ability and I can only see it getting better. And so that's why by podcast 250, I can only see this getting so much better that I'm going to look back at podcast 111 and I'm like, whoa, that was good, but look at me now. And lastly, what I learned and what has changed is that I have not allowed excuses to actually come in between me and my commitments. Because no matter what, no matter whether I felt like it, no matter whether I was tired, no matter if it was late, because a lot of times I was doing my podcast at 11 p.m., sometimes even midnight. But I decided that I was going to do something. And I decided that excuses were not going to stop me or prevent me from committing, from actually executing on my commitment. And being on camera and knowing that there's even one person that's going to be seeing this gives me that accountability and forces me for me to prepare and for me to speak. The other benefit is that I have a ton of material now to post on social media, right? I have so much material, and because I've become a lot more used to speaking to the camera, I have like the material just keeps flowing, right? Like so, yes, I have a lot of material from the past, but because I have so much in my brain now that I just think about all the time, that now like if I want to come up with material, I literally just come up with material on the spot. Like I'll give you an example. So when I film ads now, like for my Spinetti dentistry, for my clinic, when I'm filming ads, it doesn't take me long to film ads. Whereas before I had to like write down the script, I had to rehearse it, I had to look at the camera, make a ton of mistakes. That doesn't happen anymore. Do I make mistakes? I have to redo it? Sure. But not even close to the frequency, right? So I can come up with a lot of different things to talk about. I can make it a little bit more interesting. I can make it more engaging, all in the span of maybe around 10 minutes or so, and I come up with something that's really good. So I have an unlimited amount of social media material to actually post. And speaking of social media, I realize that social media is a means of communication. And I know that you hear this all the time, but there's something different about hearing it and actually doing it and realizing it. And what made me realize it is that every time that I go somewhere, okay, so recently I went to the Ontario Dental Association conference and I was literally meeting people that I've never met in my life. And they come up to me and they tell me, oh, I've seen your podcast. I listen to your podcast. And I would never imagine in 100 years that people would be actually paying attention to these podcasts. And actually, I'm noticing more and more people are paying attention to podcasts. One is because I keep posting, so the algorithm's actually favoring me. And two is because I'm getting a lot better at speaking. I mean, it's like they go hand in hand, right? And the more I get better at speaking, the more that the algorithm is going to favor me, and so on and so forth. Just it's a spiral upwards. It's only positives, right? Now, if you're hesitating to start something, this is my advice. This is how I'm going to end it. Okay, I'm going to end today's podcast. Is if you're hesitating to start something, anything at all, you have to realize a few things. Number one is yes, you're going to absolutely suck at it at first, right? Like you're going to suck at it. You're going to be terrible at it because you've never done it before. So you're actually not going to like it. But if you're committed to it, you're committed to the execution, you're actually going to get better. You're going to get better over time. Number two is that despite you actually like sucking at it, it's going to suck. Like the process is going to suck. You're not going to look forward to actually doing it. It's not going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting at first, right? The first few times, but then afterwards, you're going to realize because you're going to compare yourself to other people in your field. You're like, man, like I really suck, right? So, so the entire process is going to suck. So not only are you going to suck, the entire process is going to suck. And the journey is going to be a lot longer than you think. Not many people are going to pay attention to you. If you start a business, not many people are going to sign up to your business unless you're actually good at it, or unless you have a license that people actually want to, you know, they want to be able to see whether or not that you can service them. I'll give you an example. So with dentistry, right? Like, so I studied in what seemed like eons of years in order for me to get the license. But after I got the license, I actually had to market myself a little bit in order for me to stand out, in order for me to actually tell people that, hey, look, like I'm a dentist, right? Because as you and I both know, there's a dentist on every single street. There's more than probably 10 dentists on every single street. Like there's a lot of dentists. And so how do you stand out? Well, you stand out by being on social media. Well, I mean, at first you're going to suck, right? But then over time, you're going to become a much better dentist. And then people are going to trust you more. And then people are going to talk about you more. Like now I'm coming up to my 10th year, almost my 10th year of practicing dentistry. And obviously, I can tell you from day one until today, night and day. Dentistry to me is easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's incredibly easy. And actually, I've heard this before from other people when I was like around year, 6, 7 in my experience in dentistry. People would say, like when I actually practice dentistry, it's actually my Zen time. And I'm like, yeah, BS, whatever. Like it's still hard. But at this point, it is that. Like even when I'm having a difficult procedure that I haven't done before, I've done it before, and I just find it's a little bit more tricky, I'm still in my Zen. Like it's still in that zone where I'm like, I'm, like this is my zone, right? And that's why a lot of people find it difficult, at the end of their career after they finish dentistry, they find it really difficult for them to stop because it becomes them. Like that is their Zen, right? That's how they get away from life. They get away from life by working, right? It's no longer about the money. It's now it's just, they do it because it actually helps them relax. And I've done to that point. And you will too with anything that you start. But it's going to take time. It's going to take time for you to actually, you have to compare yourself to people. You have to talk to people that are much better than you. You have to learn. You have to travel. You have to, expand your horizons. You have to try different things. And then you find your niche within that thing that you want to start. So those are the things that you're going to have to look forward to whenever you start anything at all. The one thing that I caution you is that the phrase of do what you love is cool at first, right? Because you're gonna have to, be attracted to something for you to do at first. But you're not going to love it after the first, let's say, 10% of your journey, which is very, very small. You're not gonna love it anymore because it's just work, right? At first, yeah, you enjoyed it, it's nice, whatever. But now you have to actually get a lot better. Now you have to get better to the point where people are going to trust you with that skill. So it's going to really challenge your fiber. So when you say that, yes, I do what I love, it's going to come to the point where it's not going to be something that you love, but you have to learn to love what you do. You have to learn to love the commitment. You have to learn to love the improvement. And you're going to wake up, and many days you're going to wake up, you're like, man, I'm just not good at this. Maybe I should just throw in the towel. I've had that. I've had many days where I say to myself, man, I'm just not good at it, especially in the beginning. where I'm like, I'm just not good. I'm not good at talking. But I just pushed, I pushed, I pushed, I pushed. Even dentistry in the beginning, in the first, couple years, I was like, I'm not really good at this, right? Everybody passes through this. Everybody. And the more that you push yourself to it, the more you're going to get good at it. And the more you're going to look back and say, wow, I've changed and I've transformed. And you are going to become a much better version of you than you are today if you keep going, if you push through those uncomfortable zones, if you push through those zones where you just feel like giving up, where it's incredibly justified for you to give up, but you say to yourself, you know what? I'm not giving up. That's it. I'm just not giving up. I know it's tough. I know I'm not seeing the results. I know I'm not seeing the results that I want to see, but I'm not going to give up because it's only those that give up that actually lose. If you don't give up, you will win. Winning and losing they're on the same street, right? Success is on the same road as winning and losing. Except losing is when you stop, you get off the road of success. Winning is when you keep going until you reach your destination. Those are the difference between, someone who actually is a winner and someone who's a loser. I hope this motivated you. I hope this inspired you even one iota. And if it did, give me a like or, send me a DM, say thank you or whatever, or not. Just wave hi to the camera. I can feel the vibes. Hope you're doing well. Have yourself a wonderful day. And as always, keep smiling. Good night.